In this demo, we will show you how to create an aggregate in OutSystems, to fetch data from the database. In this module, we've already defined the customer entity, and it contains some data that was bootstrapped. Let's switch to the Logic tab and create our aggregate inside the getCustomer server action. Drag an aggregate from the toolbox on the left, and drop it into the action flow. You may set the aggregate name manually if you want, but Service Studio will set it automatically later on, as we define the aggregate sources and filters. Double-click the aggregate to open its editor. The aggregate is empty at this point. The first step is to add an entity. That can be done by either clicking the canvas and then selecting Entity, or by dragging an entity from the Data tab. Let's use the drag and drop method. Switch to the Data tab, and locate the customer entity. Now, drag it and drop it into the canvas. The customer entity was added as source to the aggregate. We can see that in the Sources tab. Notice also that the name of the aggregate was set to getCustomers. Below, we see some of the data is currently stored in the entity. Let's see how we can speed up this process a bit more. Let's switch to the Logic tab and reopen the getCustomer server action. We're now going to delete the aggregate created before. The aggregate can be quickly created again with a simple drag and drop operation. From the Data tab, if we drag the customer entity and drop it into the flow, the getCustomers aggregate is created and the customer entity is added as source inside the aggregate. This drag and drop accelerator can be handy to quickly create aggregates with a specific entity as source, and then later on modified to include other entities, filters, or sorting.